On this episode, we are sharing the mistakes you want to avoid when planning your Walt Disney World trip. Today's November 23rd, 2021. This is episode 411 of the Main Street Magic Podcast.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts. Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Main Street Magic. I am your host, Jeremy Stein, and I'm joined by my lovely wife, Rhonda.
Hey, guys.
Make sure you check us out on the web at mainstmagic.com, as well as follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at mainstmagic. If you've not done so already, head out to Facebook and search for the Main Street Magic community and ask to join. If you hit that subscribe button, you're going to get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. But if you want even more content, which is going to include our Thanksgiving tent camping trip to Fort Wilderness, which begins tomorrow, runs through Saturday. We will then be going to the House of Mouse Expo and doing the Pleasure Island Rewind Party that night. So there's so much cool, extra, behind-the-scenes style content coming this week. You also can get discounts on Main Street Magic merchandise. You get a whole lot more. You can check out our Patreon group at wonderlandcrew.com. And if you're getting ready for Christmas, coming before we know it,
Yes.
we're getting into the month
Almost a
countdown.
Yep.
Go to msmfriends.com. Check out some of our partners. You can go ahead and buy wonderful gifts there. You can go ahead and get some things like Blender's sunglasses and eyewear. We got Walter and Rosie Candle Company. If you're looking for coffee as a gift to someone, Expedition
Yummy.
Roasters is out there, as well as magical charcuterie you could send to yourself during your Disney trip or a friend or family member. Again, go to msmfriends.com. All right, so today we are going to cover the mistakes that many people make that you don't want to make when not only really planning your Disney World trip, but also some of these will touch a little bit of base on while you're there. We compiled our list. These aren't ranked or anything. We've got several to get through, but did reach out on social media and got some input there as well to kind of compile this whole list of these mistakes that you want to avoid. And we'll get right into it. Number one is not using a travel agent.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know, some big parts about the travel agent. One, go to msmears.com. Melissa Pilgrim is our recommended travel agent with years of experience. A couple things. One, they're going to find you the best price.
Absolutely.
Right? Sometimes Disney hotel rates can be very hard to navigate because, for example, if you're a Florida resident, you might have rack room rates. You might have Florida resident rates. You might have AP rates if you're an AP. You might have rates that are just special rates because of the time of the year for anybody. And they can all vary and differ. They're all using basically blocks of rooms. Just because there's a Florida resident rate doesn't mean, for example, that every single room at just say Coronado Springs is available under that rate.
Right.
So it could be that you're looking and you go, well, I'm an annual pass holder. Maybe I don't see this rate for the room I want. Oh, well, guess I'm paying full price. And you don't realize that you could just click one little other offer and maybe you get the Florida resident rate or whatever. So they're going to help you with that. The other big thing that has helped us out a lot of times, and Melissa is the absolute best at this, is let's just say you book a year in advance and you pay a rack rate, right?
Yes.
What can happen at any given time?
Disney can throw out deals.
Yeah.
And then we have literally gotten where she's like, oh, your room just dropped $100.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait, what? Those are the best news.
I know.
When you get that.
And Disney doesn't just automatically do that for you. It would take your travel agent or you yourself calling. But why do you want to deal with that? You know what I mean? Like it's just, and often even I'll look at some rates or I'll look at some options and I'll send them to Melissa and say, hey, here's the weekend we're thinking. I kind of have an idea of what's going on, but what's the best rate? And she'll get right back to you. Especially then if you are planning a full package, and you're taking your whole family. And, our podcast, we hope, serves as a way to navigate your Disney World trips and help with advice and tips. But travel agents are there for that too.
And here's the best part about it. They do not cost you extra.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, well, I can just do it myself, or I'm going to because I'm not going to spend that extra money. you're not.
Right.
So use them.
Yeah, agree completely. And the thing is, there's a lot of people that want control of planning their own trip and picking their own hotel, and I totally get that.
Right.
But that's an even better reason to maybe just hand that off to Melissa, because these are all travel agents. These are small business owners.
Yep.
And if you have an opportunity to support them, and it's not going to cost you anything other than maybe an email saying, hey, here's what I would like to do, go ahead and support them.
Yes.
Something else you can look at, this would be outside of a travel agent, but don't be afraid to look at the potential of renting DVC points, especially if a deluxe room, or hotel is where you want to be.
Right. Absolutely.
There's lots of wonderful sites out there. There's Facebook groups, with members and all that are renting out points, and they've got, referrals, and they've got, there's ways that you don't have to worry about, getting scammed or anything.
Right.
So something I think to look at. Also coming down to resorts is location.
Right.
And staying, I know there's a lot of talk about, the benefits of staying on Disney property anymore, as we have lost a lot of those benefits. But simple fact is,
hopefully they'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully some do, but the simple fact is the location.
Yeah, that's true.
You're not going to beat the location. And not only that, but you got to think of a budget allowing. All right, we're going specifically just say for food and wine. And we really love Star Wars and want to see Hollywood Studios a lot. We're going to do multiple days maybe at those two parks as the core of our vacation. You want to look at staying at one of those boardwalk resorts, or the Epcot resorts.
Or the Skyliner resort.
Yes. Yep. Would also be a perfect one. So then that opens up a Pop Century at a much more affordable rate. So those locations are things to think about. The transportation options are still something to think about. You off property, I know can often save you a lot of money, but you have to balance that money with your time.
Yep.
And if all of a sudden
Ubers possibly,
or car rental,
rentals. Yep.
Yeah. So you could sit back and say, you know what, I'm going to save $500 on the week by staying off property, but then I have to rent a car for $300 and have to pay parking at the parks. Next thing you know, you could almost even out. So it's really something to kind of look at as far as location goes.
Absolutely.
Look at the calendar.
Yeah.
What types of things could people potentially run into that are going to be much busier times?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Definitely, since we're here at the holidays, definitely holidays. Spring break is a very big one because Disney themselves shut down like Florida resident people pretty much, and the cast members. And
and you got to remember, it's not just your spring break. Spring break can encompass like a 4-week period based on all the different spring breaks across the U.S. So you want to look at the entire kind of spring break calendar. It's usually going to run somewhere around 2 weeks before Easter and a week or two after Easter is usually when those crowds are there.
Yep.
But go look at, as Rhonda mentioned, the Florida resident AP blockout dates, which would be now just say if you looked at the Pirate Pass or something. Look for those blockout dates around Easter. Those are the spring break dates.
Yep.
If you can, you may want to avoid them.
Yep. Absolutely. And then there's events. There's like Run Disney events. There's the cheerleading competitions. And in fact, my client was telling me, I can't remember if it is this past weekend or this coming weekend. So,
One of the big cheerleading events.
All that is going to be very busy.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much in the parks, but around the resorts.
And the values specifically. Like if you're, and what you can do is you can go out to the Disney's Wide World of Sports website.
Because that's where they do it at.
Yep. And you can look up the events. And if there is a major event on a weekend that you're looking to go, and you have no other time to go and you have to go, I would really try to avoid the all-star resorts and staying there, because they will usually overrun those. It's very busy. It's very loud. You'll have full out cheer practices going on in the middle of, the day in the middle of hotels and stuff. And the pools can get real busy if it's, a good time to get in the pool. So you really do want to look at that.
Yeah.
Any 3-day weekend is going to be busier.
Yes.
So I know a lot of times that you think, well, I'm off work. My kids are off school.
Right.
Sometimes it may be where you go, you know what, I'm going to take my kid out of school on a different day, and I'm going to take the day off from work and use my PTO because it could be potentially a less crowded week.
Yeah.
Look at crowd calendars at places like Touring Plans.
Yeah.
You know, they have really good estimates based on past data and ticket sales and hotel bookings and all on what weekends may look like, or weeks or whatever. So check that out. And of course, if you can go during the week for your trip, it's usually going to be better than the weekend.
Yes.
If you're able to do
Absolutely.
that. Something else is not planning ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you can't do that with Disney anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right.
You can't just go, hey guys, y'all want to go to Disney this weekend?
Right.
And just go. Especially now with reservations and trying to, get those. Those aren't going away.
Right.
But, with the good note on that side, Jeremy has planned just to try to on a day that let's see if I can get one, and he can.
Yeah.
So
we're not seeing sold out park reservations, but you still want to get them.
Yeah.
As soon as you can get them.
Yeah. But it is, if you are gonna we're gonna go to Disney today, but again, what day is that?
Yeah.
How busy is it gonna be? Because there's no more fast passes, but you do have Genie Plus, and that's something to look at. So not planning ahead, you still kind of even on a whim, you still need to plan ahead.
Yeah, you do.
And then it's Florida, and talking about not planning ahead, which you need to. You have to look at the weather and see what you need to wear. I love the meme that goes around where it's like Florida is winter in the morning, fall in the after, or the
like around lunchtime is like fall, summer's in the afternoon,
fall's in the late afternoon, and then winter's back in the evening again, because it can literally vary.
Yeah. Look at this week, for example. If you're at Disney this week, now it'll be a little bit warmer there. Of course, we're about 2 hours away, but today our high is 75. Tomorrow our high is 55. And this planning ahead, certainly you can't do 60 days out,
right?
But you want to be looking up. I know people want to pack ahead of time, in advance and all, but you really almost want to be looking up to the day before your trip at potential weather, because it can fluctuate and it can change.
You want to see if it'll rain too, and pack that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
and when you go back to Genie Plus, if you are interested in doing Genie Plus, then go ahead. You can book it for every day of your package ahead of time. Otherwise, if you're only going to use it for some days, then you want to go ahead and be ready to get it that day. But make yourself familiar with it. It is we've got a great episode on it, but it is very, very confusing. There is zero way you're going to show up on your vacation. You're going to wake up on your first day, buy it, and just be like, I know exactly how to use this, if you haven't already prior planned and researched what it's like, because you will be completely lost. It'll take you a whole day just to figure it out. And then you could utilize it the rest of your trip. But go ahead, listen to our podcast, listen to other podcasts, read blogs about it, make yourself familiar with it, along with making yourself familiar with the My Disney Experience app in general.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Again, unfortunately, you will spend a lot of time looking at your phone.
Yeah.
But it is all part of that kind of planning process. 60-day dining. If there are restaurants that you just must have, you got to book your ADRs, your advanced dining reservations at 60 days out. Now these begin each day at 5:45 a.m. So set your alarm.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'd get in there sooner, because Disney is sometimes known that they just all of a sudden go out there.
Oh, wow.
If you're looking at planning a newly introduced event, something like dessert parties, if it's the first day that they're available to book, or the candlelight processional packages, when they did those, those start at 7 a.m.
Oh, okay.
When booking,
sleep in a little bit, huh?
Sleep in a little bit more, but again, Space 220, the day that Space 220 reservations opened, which should have technically been at 7 a.m., people were getting them at 4:30 in the morning. And they were gone by the time someone like me went to get it, at the time I thought it would be available.
Right.
So just something to note as well. Don't when you're booking your ADRs, I know some people will overbook because they just want to make sure they get what they once and then they'll adjust later by canceling.
Right.
But I would not keep personally often 2 ADRs for sit down restaurants like that in the same day. Like I maybe a breakfast and a dinner. I wouldn't do a breakfast and a lunch. I wouldn't do a lunch and a dinner.
Yeah.
You often can get stuck where, just say you got a 1 p.m. Yep. You go, man, we got to go to Hollywood Brown Derby,
Mm-hmm.
Rhonda and Jeremy talk about it a lot. And I booked it and got it for 1 p.m.
Yep.
And then I'm so excited. We're staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge and I got, BOMA for 6 p.m.
Yeah.
6 p.m. may roll around and you're like, boy, I'm still full from lunch.
Yeah.
And so something to think about. People, when dining plans do come back, when they were available before, I know this was a major issue. We've told the story about our friend Christina and her family,
say that.
where literally they were like sick to their stomachs because they had
so
to eat so much because they wanted to take advantage of their dining plan. And they were doing sometimes, I think, like 3 ADRs in a day.
Well, and the hard part too, I remember with that as well, not only all the food that they had to eat, but it was a little sad that they were like, all right, we have to go here and eat.
Yeah.
It
kind of hindered plans when, because then you can't adjust. And that's where I'm going to get in kind of to the next one is planning too much.
Right.
Because you can do, now okay, let me see if I can break this down. You have to plan all this stuff ahead of time, right? You've got to have a plan. You've got to have a schedule. It's never going to go 100% according to your plan.
And I would say, too, like you said, not plan too much. You don't want to have that regimented schedule of 8 a.m. we're doing this. Yeah. 8:15 we're doing this. 8:45 we're doing this.
Yeah.
You just, have a variable.
That's perfect because that'll go into the next one. It's not next on the list, but we're going to jump ahead our list a little bit. They can't even see the list, so they don't know that. But with that planning too much, you're right. You may think, all right, we're going to rope drop every single day. And by day 3, your kids are going to be like, Dad, can I just like sleep in a little bit? Can we get up and just relax a little bit? And you got to be lenient. You got to be flexible at that point because, we've said this before too. You can't just sit and be like, no, I spent a lot of money on this trip. Right. I'm wearing my most expensive day ever shirt today. I'm dragging your butt out of 7 a.m. and we're going to Animal Kingdom to rope drop, Flight of Passage.
Right.
Because is that really worth it if your kids are miserable or your spouse or your partner or whatever is miserable the whole time? Not at all.
Right.
Take breaks.
Yep.
Heck, plan those breaks.
Yeah.
Maybe have in your head to the family, you know what? Each day around 2, why don't we head back to the resort and relax for a bit? Mm-hmm. When you get into the summer and the rainy season here, 2, 3 p.m., it gonna rain. Mm-hmm. Right? So maybe that's the time you get ahead of it and go, you know what? I remember doing that growing up. Yep. When our family would go to Disney for a week, about 2:00 every day, we just knew we were getting on a bus and going back to the room. Around 3, the sky would open. Around 4, it would be done. And we'd be back on a bus maybe 4:35 p.m. to head to parks again.
Or make your lunchtime that time. Yeah. Have a Mickey pretzel or something to hold yourself over and then sit down at a nice restaurant and and then you can hang out there for a little while and have a nice a nice lunch and just relax.
Yeah. But, and that goes the same. You bring up a great point about those breaks can be inside the park. And whether it's a meal or it's you going, I don't really, maybe your family goes, well, no one in our family really wants to see PhilharMagic, just say. Yeah. It's a wonderful show, but let's just say nobody's really interested in it. It might be a good time to go take a break in there, or Hall of Presidents.
Yeah, take a
or
nap.
Carousel of Progress if you're Rhonda. Just getting out of the sun and the weather and the heat and all and getting in an air-conditioned show, even if you're just doing it to relax, do it to relax. Yeah. We also always say, you really almost can balance, depending on the length of your trip, 2 park days, 1 rest day. Mm-hmm. If you're the Monday through Friday family and you're going to parks and maybe you're hopping Monday and Tuesday, take Wednesday off. Yeah. Go Thursday and Friday. Yep. 3 days in a row of really hard park going is a lot. I mean, 1 day can be a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
One other one is, and this actually came specifically, I did not have this on my list, from Magic Keister on Twitter. He said, flying budget airlines, do not. And again, I know there are opportunities to save money with like Spirit and Allegiant and some of those. The problem is many of these, well, one, their low cost is usually not as low as you think because you get charged for checking bags, you get charged for carry-on bags, you get charged
picking your seat.
Yeah, picking your seat. You get charged if you want to breathe the air that they're providing, I think. Like there's no frills, and that's fine if you can make it work and you're still saving money. The major problem is, especially now as flights and stuff are still being canceled a lot of these have one possible flight per day from your airport, which means if it gets canceled, there's not another flight that day a lot of times. You're looking at the next day or worse, which means you're either not getting to Disney when you wanted or you're not leaving when you thought you were.
Oh, wow.
So those are really the major ones with those. But, you know, I really think if you're coming for a weekend and you're a little bit flexible and you've got a, 2-hour flight, sometimes they'll work and you just hope it doesn't get canceled. But if you got like, a cross country flight with your whole family and it's just, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Packing, Rhonda. Let's talk a little bit about packing. I know we touched on it some with, you talking about the rain and the heat and things like that and weather changes. But what are some other things that I think you want to, your necessary packing items that you don't want to make the mistake of forgetting? Now, you can always get anything when you get there. You can get it through Amazon. You can go through,
you can.
Walmart, whatever. Yep. But you're just spending more money at that point.
Right.
And we have a running joke every time we leave. Every time we leave.
Yes.
You say, did he forget anything? And I say, probably not. We'll just buy it. Yep. And that's just been our like running joke.
Yep.
But you don't want to buy it. You don't want to have to buy it.
No. I mean, because, you get there and you're like, oh, I want this, Spirit jersey. And, I'm like, oh, it's a little cooler than I expected. So, yay, I do get to buy it. But, but for things like I don't want to buy sunscreen. And again, anytime in Florida, I went to the Jags game yesterday and put sunscreen on because even though it wasn't blistering hot, the sun was still shining and I could have gotten burnt basically. And that's the same way as Disney. And
even when the sun's not shining here, you think you're safe and you don't realize you are getting sun and you can get burnt on a cloudy day.
Yep. One thing too is, like Jeremy touched on earlier about Genie Plus and unfortunately needing to look at your phone. You need to look at your phone so much that unfortunately it could die and you don't want that. Yeah. Whether you're, checking things or doing social media or, trying to take pictures of your family trip. So, make sure you have that battery pack and charger.
Yeah. And battery pack specifically only because outlets still aren't the easiest thing to find at Disney. And even if you do find one, then you're stationary while your phone recharges.
Right.
So that's okay. And it may be a good time to take a break. Like I stopped at Nomad Lounge last Thursday to grab some lunch and they had chargers underneath the bar top. Oh. So I was already going to be sitting there for a little bit.
Nice.
So I was able to plug in and recharge.
Nice.
But otherwise, we use the Anchor brand battery pack. You can get on Amazon. They're not too expensive. Have that in your necessary cables. And then at night, when you go to charge your phone, also make sure you charge your charger. Because there's nothing worse than going to plug your phone into your battery charger and that's dead.
Yeah.
And finding cables for your phone, charging cables, if you wanted to purchase one in the parks, has proved to be very difficult, we found.
Yes, it has.
You have the option of a fuel rod, but that's going to set you back $30. So again, just get one ahead of time on Amazon, have it in your park bag, ready to go.
And those are short little stubby
the little cables.
Cables.
Yeah.
So if you're like, okay, well, I don't have one and you'll just buy a fuel rod, you might be disappointed pulling that out going, oh, well, how do I, like, if you do find an outlet or something,
then you're almost barely able to charge it anyway. And the talking about the packing and the clothes, I know we keep saying it, but today to tomorrow is a 20-degree swing in the high. That is odd, but it's not out of question here in Florida, especially during this time of year. But even you could find yourself in October, September sometimes where we wake up to it being 45 degrees and in the afternoon at 2 p.m. it's 85 degrees. So if you're heading to the park in the morning, you may need a long sleeve or something. And by the afternoon, you got to think, all right, now I've got this long sleeve I don't need anymore. So make sure you have room in your park bag, or you tie it around your waist. And then in the evening, you might need it again.
Yep.
So it really can vary everywhere.
Oh, yeah. There's been definite times where I have been waiting for a bus in the morning with a Spirit jersey and shorts on, and I'm freezing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it'll get warmer. It'll get warmer.
Yeah.
So, and it will, and it does. And then, of course, later I'm kind of almost hot. But then if I'm there all day, then yeah, later that night, I'm like, ooh, I'm cool again.
But even with that being said, sometimes it could be July and it's sweltering hot outside, and then you go in to see Frozen Sing-Along and it's freezing because of the AC.
Yeah.
So even those things sometimes, I mean, you're almost in there, and then you're sweaty. So now you basically have cold water on you. It feels like. So you do want to vary. Bethany Pierce, actually from our Facebook community, the Main Street Magic community, had a great one that we don't have to worry about because we drive.
Right.
So we technically always have space. But she said not leaving enough room in the suitcase for souvenirs. Said we bought a monorail set for our Christmas tree on our last trip, and we had to do some very creative packing for the flight home. Really great point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've known people that have gone to like Target or Walmart and bought a suitcase because they had to get stuff home. Because here's the thing. Pretty much you never come home from Disney with this exactly the same stuff that you brought.
Correct.
You usually got some extra stuff with you in the way of souvenirs or whatever. So yeah, whether you bring your own extra bag that you know you're going to fill with stuff, or as Bethany said, just leave room in that suitcase.
Right.
Maybe you pack the slightly bigger suitcase that you didn't think you need.
Right.
So that you can fill it up with souvenirs.
Absolutely.
Budgeting is always going to be a big one. It's one thing to say, all right, Melissa, here's what we would like to do. We'd like to do this many nights. We have this many people. We'd like to do these days in the parks. And she can say, okay, that is $2,748. And you go, great. Well, your budgeting and your money spending is far from over.
Yes.
So when you get there, you need to think of food, right? Not only your restaurants, your quick services. Look at menus. Be aware of the costs of things. It's very easy for you to drop 50 to 60 on a family of 4 for a quick service, 100 plus on a table service for that family of 4.
Yep.
You have to add in if you partake, especially in alcoholic beverages, you're often spending anywhere between $9 to $15 on a beverage you have to think about. And you got to think about things for your room, use Shipt or something to get snacks in your room.
Right.
As we said, taking these midday breaks, maybe those midday breaks are going back to your room and making a sandwich and having lunch or something.
Right.
And again, that's if you need a budget. If you've just got all the money to spend, then do whatever you want. But these are ways that can help. You know?
Absolutely. You can take anything into the park as well.
You can.
So, they have backpack coolers that, you can put food and drink and
just no loose ice. So if that's what you're going to do, bring what I would suggest you bring, because there's no good bringing freezer packs because there's nowhere to freeze them, because the rooms, unless you're a DVC room, the rooms just have a fridge. There's nothing to freeze those overnight. But bring a big handful of like large Ziploc bags. You can go to the ice machine, fill those up, close them. That's what you can pack your cooler with if you want to bring lunch in, things like that. Again, Uber and Lyft.
Yep.
If you're going to need to use Uber and Lyft to get around, you want to have an idea. We did it from Town Place Suites.
Yes.
And it was $16 going to Epcot and $25 coming back from Hollywood Studios, because those prices will vary and fluctuate throughout the day and night. So you want to budget for that. Think of, all right, if we are going to just say Uber, Lyft to and from a park every day of our trip, I would just budget in your mind at least like $50 a day for that. Yep. You can get discounted gift cards ahead of time.
Yes,
a lot of these
Target,
wholesale clubs, like Costco, BJ's Wholesale, things like that, you can get them usually at a 5% discount.
Okay.
And so you can really load up when, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're buying $1,000 in gift cards,
Yeah.
it starts to add up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or Target, if you use their red card, you can save 5%.
Yep.
Sometimes even places like Costco around the holidays will have extra deals where you can save even more. So
Awesome.
look at doing that. Buy gift cards, load them into the website. Disney, I think it's DisneyGiftCard.com.
Mm-hmm.
You go ahead and load them up and load multiple cards. You can take the cards up to 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a little scary to be carrying around $1,000 with you.
Yes.
If you lose it, though, you could immediately go on the website and transfer that balance to a different card. You must register these cards.
Yes, because we have a
Otherwise,
story
gone.
that unfortunately that happened where
Yeah.
Lucy and Caleb had it, and then they lost it basically. And here was the good news: when they kind of realized she had another card, she went and transferred everything over, and they only lost $27.
Yeah.
But it is sad to know that somebody did pick it up and
Yeah.
spend $27 on it. So
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, there's, if somebody does find a Disney gift card laying around, you would hope they would just turn it into guest services. But again, there's really no
know,
real
that's-
proof is the problem if you
Right.
haven't registered it. I could go up to guest services at any time then and be like, yeah, I lost a gift card. Did someone turn one in? Yeah, we got a whole box of them. Which one's yours? That one. I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be hard to get it
Yeah.
back to you. So something you really, really want to do. As we kind of wrap this up, and I feel like we have touched base on this so many times, the biggest mistake you can make on a Walt Disney World trip is just not enjoying yourself.
yeah.
I mean, I know we kind of joke about it often, but yes, Disney's expensive.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money.
Yep.
You know that going in.
Right.
So don't let that ruin your vacation because
Right.
you get there and go, well, this is expensive. Yeah,
Mhm.
we know.
Jaguar
Everything's
games
expensive.
expensive.
Jaguar games are very expensive.
Yep.
Everything is expensive
Yep.
now. And, if you go ahead and again, I'm not saying you just go and blow all your money. Use a lot
Right.
of these tips to save money,
Yeah.
to be smart about things. But, enjoy your trip. Enjoy
Yes.
your family. Enjoy the memories. Again, we always say, don't have a checklist where you got to check every box or it's
Mhm.
not a success. If you come home and you didn't get a chance to ride Rise of the Resistance, that stinks. And
Yeah.
you're probably looking forward to it and maybe it didn't work out. But what else did you do?
Yeah.
You don't want to come back going, well, how was your vacation? It's horrible. I didn't ride Rise of the Resistance. Oh, what else did you do? Oh, like everything. But man, it was horrible. We didn't get to ride that. Like, no, that's going to
Right.
happen. You're not going to get
Right.
to do everything you want
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
And take the time to relax
Yeah.
and take it in.
Yep.
We haven't done this in a long time because I guess some of them are well, there's not many firsts left, I feel like, but we got to a point where every trip we made sure we did a Disney first.
Yes.
And that didn't have to be like the first time we rode a ride or the first time we ate at a restaurant. I remember one time, Kaylin and I, our Disney first it was the first time we were in the front row of Rock and Roller Coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And we just took the time and moment to go, hey, here's our Disney first.
Yep.
And it really can be anything.
Yeah.
Hold on to those types of things. Yeah, take lots of photos. Be with your family, your friends. If you're on a solo trip, like we talked about last episode, take that same time. But
Mhm.
this is, it really is the most magical place on earth.
Mhm. It is.
Been lots of changes.
Yep.
But I don't think that's changed the fact that once you're there, you should be having fun.
Yes. Absolutely.
Anything else you wanted to add that maybe we forgot? Because I know there's plenty more mistakes out there.
Yeah, I'm sure
And-
there are.
And this is where we love to hear from, our listeners on social and the Main
Yeah.
Street Magic community on Facebook, because sometimes episodes like this are hard for us to do because I don't want to say we don't make mistakes. We make them every time.
Yeah.
But we haven't planned a Disney trip in the sense of all these mistakes. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these just come natural to us now because we're very fortunate that we live close and we can go a lot.
Right.
So sometimes there could be glaring mistakes we didn't even think of, So would love to hear from everybody. Let us know what mistakes you have made. Maybe let us know some that we've missed.
Don't make the mistake of not being nice to cast members.
Yes.
Be nice to cast members.
Yes. You can be even nicer by getting a Be Nice to Cast Member shirt at mainstreetshirts.com. Also, churros are back.
Mm-hmm.
If you did not hear from Destination D23, and we have a special design shirt now at mainstreetshirts.com as well that lets everyone know churros are definitely back.
Wow.
We did not get a chance to make it to Destination D23. I was gone Wednesday through Friday, and then Rhonda had to work Saturday. She had plans for the Jaguar game yesterday, but I watched a lot of the live streams on Saturday. I was hoping for some more concrete dates on things.
Everything's happening in 2022.
Everything's coming in 2022, but we don't really have dates.
It's a long 365 days of 2022.
And I forget who it was at one point actually said, they're like, and this is also coming in 2022 along with everything else, like, and just kind of blanket. But there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. I hope we're going to get more dates. I thought we would have then, but
I'm excited for the new Magic Bands.
Yes, Magic Band Plus is going to be so cool. The best part, if you've not seen the video, I know that Josh D'Amaro showed off the real working lightsaber in the past.
Yeah.
But if you go watch the clip of him lighting it up on stage and his face, just this huge smile, is so cool.
Awesome.
No, it will not be one that guests will ever interact with or touch. This is going to be a stage prop, and we're not even sure if it retracts. Nobody's seen it retract yet. So I'm just so curious on the workings of it and how it works.
Yeah.
Because then he turned around and handed it off to like the stagehand very, very carefully. It's not like he then and it went back into the hilt.
Right.
So I really wonder how this thing works. If we'll ever find it. It is incredible.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. So, but just kind of wanted to touch on that. We were going to do originally a full kind of editorial wrap up on Destination D23, but I just didn't think enough new information came out of it.
Right.
But it was a great event. If you can go back and watch some of the different live streams, I highly suggest you go back and you do watch them, especially the stuff about Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
I want to get on that thing one day.
One day,
we'll see.
hopefully.
One day. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening. Truly appreciate your time. I hope this episode was helpful. Whether you're, a newbie or a veteran to Walt Disney World, I think there's always mistakes that can be made. So if you can avoid them, it's certainly going to help with your trip, not only from the way that you enjoy it and getting to see and do all the things and eat the things you want, but it's going to save you money too if you don't make a lot of these mistakes. So go ahead and join our Facebook community, Main Street Magic community. There are always wonderful discussions out there at MainST Magic on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button, you get brand new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. And as long as you're out there, will you please leave us a rating and review?
Because it helps our show grow.
That's all we've got. We'll see you real soon.
Jeremy and Rhonda are more than a little fond of Disney World, so they made this podcast to share it all with you. Reports and resorts, top 10 lists of all sorts. Main Street Magic's bringing it home for you.